Hey everyone, my name is Vince Oldry, and I'm here with Josh Woodward. We're at our Mastermind Advisor Marketing Podcast, where we help advisors with their marketing. And today we're going to be talking about what every advisor seems to be missing, which is the follow-up process, or the drip marketing part. And we're going to go through what we use and how we do our drip marketing, or how we keep following up with people. So that way you can constantly get more show-ups and better appointments and not let people fall through the cracks. And if you're like me, you probably have tried a lot of different things, and it took me a long time to figure out what the right sequence was, how often you can actually message people, how often you can actually not bug people. But the funny thing is you can actually do a lot more than what you may realize.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this podcast. I think it's like one thing that 90% of advisors are kind of missing is, what happens when that individual doesn't attend, doesn't show. A lot of advisors, it seems like they just kind of sit on an Excel sheet on the back of their computer and they just never really utilize that person ever again. So it would be cool to kind of look at that, dive into deeper and see, and kind of show advisors like what those kind of results can entail.
Now, I remember when I was first doing dinner seminars, my dad was telling me, he was asking me, he's like, are you getting the emails of everybody at the seminar? I'm like, well, no. And the reason why is I was just doing the mailers, right? And then people would show up to my dinner seminars, and I wasn't really I didn't really care about the emails. I'm like, you can't do much with email marketing. The only thing I think of is like junk email. So what good is email? Well, he kind of frowned upon that, and he told me I should be collecting every person's email address, and I should be putting it in my system. And funny enough, as we've built our system, we've talked with a lot of advisors, and a lot of them haven't been collecting the email addresses either. It's amazing. I've talked to so many advisors that have been doing this for 20, 30 years. They maybe have a database of like 100 people, 200 people. I'm like, and they get stacks and stacks and stacks of papers, right? Which the email address is on, but they just haven't manually put that email address into their system. And then there are some people that do have good amount of emails, which we've been really successful with. I know Dave, I won't mention his last name. He had like 20,000 emails. He was getting appointments, like 6 or 8 appointments a week just from his email database we used. So it's important to collect the email addresses. It's important to continuously do the drip email. And I technically wasn't really doing it correctly until last year. Beginning of last year is when I first started creating this whole thing.
Collect and utilize. But yeah, we started collecting and utilizing your emails from last year. And I mean, how many contacts are in that system that we probably would have never been? I think you got to be close to over 1,000 contacts in there, right?
Oh, no, way more. Way
more.
It's like 5, yeah. When I originally started with like 2,500, so when we were doing the marketing through Facebook, I was starting to collect all their emails. And so when we first launched it last year, I had 2,500 names and emails that we went with. And I generated, this is always a good story because I got a $3 million client, and he was going through my email sequence. So we started this email sequence last February, and I'm sending out an email every other day. And this guy's getting my email every other day for about a month and a half, and then he finally schedules time to go to the webinar, books an appointment, comes in for a meeting, and he moves his assets. Now, the funny thing is he came to my seminar back in 2018, and he wasn't ready to move yet, right? So sometimes it's about timing. It's making sure that you are following up, but there's also the part of what kind of content you're giving them. Like a lot of times people are just like, hey, I'm sending you an email and here's the market and here's what we think, and by the way, book an appointment with me. I mean, that's not the kind of email content that's going to work, unfortunately. It's a lot of the generic stuff that's out there, but it's not the right stuff that, at least what we think is the right stuff to use.
Yeah. So on that part, I mean, the whole thing's key. I mean, as a marketer, I just think of everything as a funnel. And obviously there's holes in that funnel, and then you're just taking advantage of each stage within that funnel. So the seminar, you spend all this money to get people to attend. All your attention is going to the people that attended, but what about all the people that didn't show? All the people that showed and didn't set an appointment? What happens with those leaky holes in the funnel? Email is a great way. And so when we're talking about that style of email, like what Vince is bringing on, a newsletter, great. But what it should be is more of the emotional draw. I think Vince, with our emails, we send out an email every other day consistently touching these individuals, and all of it is nothing to do with the market or where a certain stock's at. It's all about how can you live a better life in retirement? Have you thought about taxes, et cetera, et cetera? But then you drive them to a call to action, a reason, a way to click more. So you're trying to bring them back into, another funnel.
Yeah, it's a bit unique because we're not trying to ask for the appointment right from the email. Even there's certain steps that we take to not ask for anything more than their email address and phone number, and not to ask for an appointment. And that's why the appointments that we do get are good quality appointments where people are more committed or more interested in potentially working with us. So let's just back up to the very beginning. So if we get someone's name, email, phone number, great. Usually we get that name, email, phone number from our marketing process, which is either we're doing our marketing for our seminar or our webinar. Now, both of them, we gather the emails, and what happens is if people show up, great. If they don't show up, that's okay. We send them through a different email sequence. So let's just start off with the show up, because I think a lot of advisors actually forget even the first part. Like, they do have to somewhat contact people after the seminar. It's not like people are just like, hey, yeah, I do want to set up time. Great, we booked them on the calendar, and then people get upset when they don't show, even though they booked them on the calendar, right? So they just think people are going to remember. They think people are just going to show up because they did schedule that time. Well, I know from dinner seminars that the show-up rate is really, really low in comparison to non-dinner seminars and the webinars. But if we start with the seminars or the webinars, keep in mind, if you're doing the webinars, it has to be you giving the webinar to get a better show-up rate. But when it comes to the seminars, you're hopefully the one giving the seminar, so I don't really have to go through the differences there. But if we do the seminar, after the seminar, let's say someone wants to book an appointment, great. We send them multiple emails, multiple text messages, and then we do a prior day call. Now, when I say multiple emails, we send them 5 emails just to remind them of their appointment. We send them 3 text messages just to remind them. And we get, sometimes people will, kind of complain about that. Just they're like, I got enough emails, I got enough texts. You don't have to remind me that often. I'm like, I know, but a lot of people do forget. And so, what we kind of treat this as is, like the dentist office or the doctor's office. My dad, when he was in Florida, he said, like, I could never forget my appointment because I'd get so many texts and emails and a follow-up call that there's no way that I could forget about my appointment. So that was what instilled what we built for our own financial planning firm was, hey, we should follow the dentist, doctor's office model for these people that are in or near retirement because they won't forget to come to their appointment. And if they do forget, then it was intentional, or they just reschedule, which is even better. If I'd rather they reschedule than not show, like just completely ghost me. I'd rather they reschedule or show up.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of advisors think you're sending too much, but I'd rather send too much than too little. And people that think it's too much, or you have those comments, more than likely they'll reschedule, or they weren't going to be a good fit or attend anyways because it might be too much. So I always go off the philosophy more can be better. And then if you have a ton of unsubscribes or too many notifications, then make those adjustments. But don't be afraid to send out those notifications.
So that helps us with the show rate. But what about, if let's say people attend the seminar or the webinar, but they don't book an appointment right away, you should not leave those guys just fall off the list. So what our process is, as soon as someone attends the seminar or the webinar, we call them the next day, regardless if they ask for the appointment or not. We'll still say thanks for attending. And a lot of times what Dale, my appointment setter, does is says, hey, I can't really tell by your form here if you wanted to book an appointment or not. Is that something you wanted to do? And probably the majority are no's. But he definitely has gotten a lot of clients that are like, yeah, we just want to talk about it before we book some time, and they actually schedule some time. And those are the ones that actually probably more likely become clients because they've thought about it and they wanted to meet with me. Same thing with the webinar. After the webinar, probably 30-40% of our appointments that we book are people that attended the webinar but did not actually schedule time from the exact webinar. So it's important to make sure that you do have a follow-up process. And we don't just call them once. We call them multiple times. So here's our process. After the seminar, we call them late morning. If they don't answer, we don't leave a voicemail. We call them again in the afternoon or evening. Then we leave a voicemail. We give a day break, call them again, do the same thing. Now, the reason why we don't leave a voicemail is that it gives us an opportunity to call them again, okay? Now, Dale is really good because he'll actually come in on the weekends and he'll call people on Saturdays and Sundays sometimes. He's got like the football schedule down. He's got like the church schedule down to like try to fit those windows of opportunity to reach people. He's done really well with that, but we still call them often. We don't let them die. Same thing goes for the webinar. We call them multiple times and then text, email to try to get them to book an appointment. So I think one of the big things that advisors forget to do is actually call people after the seminar or the webinar. And I realize that not everyone has an appointment setter, but my appointment setter has been with me now for 5 years. And when he first started with me, he was actually with another advisor that I used to work with. And then
Vince poaching.
Oh no, I didn't poach him. No, the other advisor fired him.
Okay.
The other advisor fired Dale. And I already knew he was good, but he reached out to me. I just started off, I was just starting again, and he Dale reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, do you have any work for me?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just starting off. I don't have like a ton of people in my database." He's like, "Well, anything?" I'm like, "Well, I could pay you maybe like $300 a month, and you'd come in like once a week and try to book some appointments, and you'd maybe make like 2-3 hours worth of calls." And he'd give me some appointments, and then as we started growing and getting a little bit bigger. Now he's a full-time employee. That's all he does. He just books appointments, and he makes calls for some of the advisors that we work with. Before I jump into the other part of the email stuff, if you do have questions or if you're kind of like, how did we get to this point? I do suggest that you go through our other podcasts or even our YouTube channel. If you go to mastermindadvisor.com, you can watch some of our YouTubes on how we do the marketing, how we get to this point. I think the marketing, to me, is easy. I think this part is the big missed opportunity that a lot of advisors aren't taking.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. It's money spent, and once those leads are there, they're there, and you can take advantage of money that you spent a while ago. In your case, you made the reference of 2-3 years ago, and you were able to take advantage of that with purely just the follow-up sequences and building that out. So
now there's a guy that helped me with the appointment process a little bit, and you used to work with him, but Jason Wank, we followed the Retirement Wealth Academy process a little bit, almost to a T. And I remember you guys would bring me on stage and say, what are you guys doing differently? Why is your show rate so good? And why is your appointment rate and business doing so well? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just following the process. I don't understand. Like, why am I the one up here? And it's really, my dad was big on systems and processes and procedures, but it's important that you follow those processes or those systems, but don't be afraid to follow up with people more than you think. Like, I know so many advisors are like, I called them once already this week. Okay, so what? Call them again. What's the worst thing to say? No? And if they're like, stop calling me so much, well, guess what? I could name all the big groups out there that hound people. Like, take Fisher Investments. If you've ever plugged in your information to Fisher Investments, which I've done, they call you nonstop for a long time, like years. They still call me. I don't know how long.
I'm sure they still call you.
Yeah. Like, they're relentless. And I don't know if they leave voicemails. I don't remember that part. But they call. And that is, something that we should all take away, that, hey, Fisher's not, they're doing pretty good. I don't know that many people that are like annoyed with them, right? Think about this. People put their information in first, right? It's not like you're just calling a cold list here. So every now and then you might get someone that's upset, but just brush it off.
Yeah, they raise their hand. You're just trying to figure out why. Sometimes it takes time. So, and the cool thing is, with technology and dripping, and I think phone calls are huge. Like, there's nothing that's going to outperform that. the cool thing is you can help automate it with other touches, texting and emailing, so they can expect it, right? They stay top of mind when you call. They've seen 4 emails from you prior before you call. They know who you are. They're not, oh, I forgot about that seminar, or or whatever that may be.
Yeah, so I think that kind of tops off the beginning part of the the follow up. Then there's the people that fall by the wayside a little bit. You're done kind of following up with them or tracking them down with phone calls. Even still, though, if we are following up with them via phone calls, they're still going to go into our email drip system. So if someone doesn't attend the seminar or webinar, or someone doesn't book an appointment, they go into our never-ending email sequence, or what we call a never-ending email sequence. And it's basically like a rotational email. And the first email that goes out is really just educational, just trying to it's just, hey, I want to, talk about taxes with you. And if you want, you can download my free guide. And if they download the guide, then you guys know they probably go into my webinar funnel, and we try to get them to go to the webinar. But it's not asking them to go to the webinar. Okay, we're not asking them to go back to the seminar. In fact, the majority of people that don't attend a seminar more than likely will never attend a seminar. So it's better off that we just push them to the webinar anyway. So we're going to send them an email every other day. Now the email is very casual. There's not a lot, hey, I was talking to somebody, blah, blah, blah. They said that, they're confused about Roth conversions. And so here's the difference between Roth conversions. And by the way, if you want my tax guide, you can click here to download it. That's it. So it's not like I'm trying to, hey, you got to download my guide and you got to book an appointment with me. Or if you're, if just in case you want to book an appointment with me, click here. No, like I never got the permission to ask for that appointment yet. So we send out 15 days, or after the 15th day, we then ask them to go to the webinar. And the reason why we wait that long is that buildup of emails is kind of like a warm-up process. They start getting used to seeing our emails. They start getting used to seeing our name a little bit. They realize we're not like a poacher, or, we're not a bad guy, right? Type of email. They kind of like seeing some of that content. And then we ask them, hey, do you want to come to the webinar? And we say, hey, by the way, I'm doing this webinar. Do you want to come? It's free, no cost, blah, blah, blah. We do 3 days worth of emails like that, and then go back into just nonchalant type emails. Hey, do you know how Social Security is taxable? Well, by the way, here's my guide if you want to download it. And again, every time we're going to have them go through that funnel. Now, after the first month, we change it up. We give them a different guide. Then 15th day, try to get them to go to the webinar. Third month, give them a different guide. And then after that third month, we just throw them back in. We just rotate it. Now, obviously, I'd love to add more emails. It's just a lot to write. There's a lot of content, right? It's each email is pretty long, and it's a lot of content to write. In fact, if I could have an email go out every day, that'd probably be better.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about the time constraint on it, it does take time, but maybe it took one day out, right? And you wrote all those emails. It took you 8 hours to write all those emails. How long have we utilized all those emails? It's been, and how much money has it brought in? So even the longevity of taking time and just writing these emails way outweighs the longevity of you actually being able to utilize it. And it shouldn't take too long, because if you're looking for like content from an advisor, like, man, I just don't know what these guys want to hear about. You talk to your clients every day. What's their main concerns? I mean, you even gave an example of like, hey, Susie just asked this question. I thought you'd be curious about it too. I bet that email, if I look at the numbers, probably does way better than just saying, hey, Roth, did you know you can convert or roll over your Roth IRA? Or whatever, that lingo is. So if I can push anything, our content's written already by Vince, and it's streamlined and it's awesome and it performs really well. But if an advisor can step in and just take a day, even if it takes 4 hours, you can utilize that same content over and over, and it way outweighs what you're going to get paid.
Yeah, and the exciting thing is it actually working. So I remember using some other email programs that I just wasn't generating anything from, and they have nice email content. And then they have like some weird responses like, hey, PS, if what are you doing this weekend? Respond here. Or they'd still have like the downloadable guide, but then there was nothing. It was like book an appointment after downloading the guide. Well, so a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, I got that program, just like what Vince is doing. I'll just use that program. Well, the problem is they just download the guide and then what? What's the next call to action? You can't ask for an appointment. That's not the right. It's too soon. You didn't get permission. So that's what dawned on me. Like, because I was doing those same emails, doing those same guides. I've heard some people have some success with it, every now and then, but it never drew people in like our system has done, and made it that much easier. Now, the best part about Chat GPT coming around and AI. What some of the stuff that we're trying to do now is we're trying to build AI or content, rewrite the content with Chat GPT, and so we can still keep it conversational. But what we're going to be doing now with the system that we just built into our program is we're going to be able to know what type of interest people have when they give us their name and email and phone number, and we're going to rebuild our funnels so that way the content is going to be geared towards them. So it could be around golf, it could be around fishing, it could be around reading. Like maybe they like to go reading, maybe they like to go hiking, go outdoors. And all that content is going to be rewritten as if it was meant for them and their interests. And so after someone types in or puts in their name, email, phone number, our system's going to look and say, hey, this person has this much money. Their interests are estate planning or taxes or investing. They have a good score as far as what they might look like as far as working with someone with an advisor. And then it's going to go through, it's going to tell us what type of interest they have. Now, I think what we'll do next time, Josh, is actually go through our actual funnels just like a lead would, so people can see. So we'll show them on our screen. So that way they can see what people, how they go down that path, and then what our system's doing to be able to kind of tell them or tell our system what to do next, right? So it's going to be more of like a smart system rather than just be like, hey, Josh, Vince, well, they both have brown hair, so let's, sell them hair losing products. Well, if you look at my head, I don't have that problem. So
you would use that as an example. You would use that as an example. But it is key. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is hearing what he's saying, but this will be huge. I mean, the emails will eventually are going to start sounding like it was written, like Vince sat down in front of a computer, looked at John, and just wrote a personal email specifically for them. It's like segmenting marketing at the finest level, and it will be huge.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that, but I think we should, in the next podcast, actually show people the path people go down. And I think people forget how many emails you just send people. When I talk about, Bob, the guy that came on as a client from 2018, it was a month and a half worth of emails before he even opted in for our webinar. Now, I think when it comes to drip, you have to drip in many different angles. You can't just drip with, after you do a seminar and make a bunch of phone calls, fine. But you can't just drip with email either. That's why you have to have like different levels of your drip. That's why we do the automated webinar in the background, because that's like another level of a drip where people can learn more about us and learn more as far as what our philosophy is to then be able to want to work with us. And then pretty soon, once we get all that generated, which we're working on as we speak, I'm just looking at my team over there, like making sure they're working. I see you, Andrew. he's smiling at me. Making sure they're working on the stuff that we're trying to build out here, because it's going to be even more intense as far as the drip marketing goes.
Yeah, we definitely should go through that. Show the entire funnel and what it looks like, even the data that we're going to pull and segment. I think that's a great idea.
I think there's so many what-if scenarios, and I think that's potentially the problem where advisors get hung up, though, is when they try to build this out themselves, there's so many what-if scenarios. And so when we've built it out through our program, it took a long time to actually build it out. When you think about it, you're like, you want to do this, then this, then this, then this, and this. Well, when you try to program it, it's like, all right, I got to do this. And it just takes so much work to put it in. There's been a couple of advisors that are like, hey, what program are you using? Well, I mean, technically, we're using a program called Go High Level, right, in the background. But we built it all out for ourselves. Alex Branning, Agent CRM, uses the same program. But he built out all of his own funnels, all of his email, all of his text message. It's a lot of work on the back end. So when a couple of guys have asked me, so I got in there, it's a little bit overwhelming. Well, yeah, because you're literally building it out from scratch. It can do all those things that we want it to do, but it can take a long time. So don't get overwhelmed by it. It can take a long time. So don't, there's nothing that's like pre-built for financial advisors other than what, people already have built for themselves, like Alex Brandy, myself, others that have built this. Now you can get access to our system if you want to. You just can, if you want, go to mastermindadvisor.com and schedule some time so that way you can get a full demo if you want to see if this is a good thing for you. If not a big deal. Or you can go to our Mastermind Advisor podcast, or I'm sorry, our YouTube channel, which you'll be able to watch what we do next week on what our funnel looks like.
Yeah, we'll take some time. Maybe next week's a little bit longer, and we'll dive right into it. And that'll be a really good YouTube video for everyone to watch, especially advisors that are trying to build it out. Even if they're trying to build it out themselves, again, the work outweighs the results at the end of the day. It does take time, but of course, once it's built and you have it set in a set way, we can automate it and make it perform. But it does take a long time to get used to all that stuff. And as we know, most advisors wear so many different hats. So, adding another tech hat and another CRM specialist hat is probably just not something that most advisors want to do.
Well, adding in a podcast, adding a YouTube channel, adding in email content, adding in doing seminars, doing webinars. I mean, sometimes it's like pulling teeth to try to get you guys to record your own webinar, and it's only like an hour long, not even.
Amen to that.
So I get it. I know it's, when I need to re-record my webinar, it's like I know Josh is like, dude, can you just re-record it? I'm like, yeah, well, okay, I'll get to it. I still get appointments, so I'm not like rushing to it. But I'll do a new one today for you, buddy.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see if it happens. I'll try to hold you to that.
Okay.
We'll know on next podcast. I'll be like, hey, by the way, guys, Vince still hasn't recorded that new webinar yet. It takes 40 minutes. Just turn that camera on, talk for a little bit, and give me the file. We'll take it from there. So, but
I just have to re-record it because I updated some of the slides for taxes and stuff like that. So I need to re-record it. I did re-record it once already. It's not performing as I want it to. I talked a little bit, maybe too much in the beginning about like the story, so I'll fix that. But other than that, because someone's like, "We get it, dude." I'm like, I don't want to hear about this. I just want to hear about financials. I'm like, oh, good point. That's what I try to preach, but I was trying to like utilize this, like amplify your my neighbor, does the story selling. I was trying to do the story selling in it, and I think I did too much storytelling and not story selling. So I'll have to abbreviate it a little bit and get to the point. But anyway, guys, appreciate you listening. If you want to find out more information, go to mastermindadvisor.com or go check out our YouTube channel. And next week, we will show you our actual funnels as far as what happens when someone comes into the webinar, and then actually what all the data we get, and then how they go down those different email sequences.
Yeah, basically get to see behind the curtains of everything. So it'll be a good one.
Not that we haven't shown behind the curtains already, but
yeah, one more time. We'll do it one more time. That's it. The next video is all you guys get, and that's it. We're done. So
yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, Vince, for the hopping on and going through this. It's hopefully advisors are grabbing some good nuggets from it.
I know they are. So we're kind of giving away our secrets, but that's okay. It's to help you guys out. And if you guys need help, please reach out. We'll see you guys next time.
See you.